Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome back to the DirtInfo Podcast. Season 2. Cast is different, faces are the same. I'm Josh. This is my good friend Carter. This week, we're going to chat Volusia, Big Gators, and Speedweeks. Oh my. We might actually make a couple of late model tour predictions as well. Then I'm going to go ahead and recap my trip to the Granite City Banquet. We'll recap news, notes, and happenings throughout the modified world and beyond. And then, as always, we'll send you home with one for the road. Before we jump into that, though, I do just want to cover a couple things real quick. First and foremost, you can find us all over the place on the internet. Our online home is dirtinfo.com, but if you can think of a social, we're probably on it. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, or X, Instagram, TikTok. The podcast is on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music. Basically, we're anywhere you might be looking for us. So if you can go ahead and give us a like, a follow, share, something like that, all of that helps a ton. But we would just really appreciate it. With that, Carter, what did you watch this weekend?
Um, Pretty much the only thing there was to watch, aside from Ocala. I didn't watch the USAC sprint cars. I apologize, but my
I
attention
did
was
not.
on Volusia pretty much the whole week. So I watched most of the days. I had to miss a few, but I'd say the racing. I mean, every time I'm not looking forward to Volusia, and it always delivers. It seems like pretty much every time.
It feels that way, doesn't it? I mean, I don't get excited about Volusia. I don't know if it's just something about them racing there 500 days in a row or something, but like I wasn't pumped for this week, but it did. It absolutely delivered. I think we got a bunch of different winners. Saturday to me sticks out, and maybe that's just recency bias, but like what Davenport did, I thought was awesome. That guy just basically drove around somebody who was in the rubber. You don't see that often, much less off a restart. So I know that you maybe didn't have as much attention on that one as others. But all the same, I'm telling you, maybe go back and rewatch it a second time. That was awesome. That was really awesome.
There was one thing I want to mention. I saw it on Twitter. I wasn't watching qualifying, but Nick Hoffman in qualifying on Saturday went quick time at the time, I believe, and then when he went to exit the track, he smoked the inside wall or something like that. Is it
Yep.
that? Yeah.
Yep. So I think the backstory there is that they took an extra lap, they lost their best time,
Oh, okay.
and so I don't. He said he was staring at the board to see what his lap time was for lap 2 and saw it was super slow, and then was like, oh. Poop, exit, and just threw her in there, and it bounced off the tires there. But he ricocheted, thankfully, towards the entrance, and so they let the quick time stand.
Yeah, I saw that clip on Twitter. I was like, I would like to see Nick Hoffman's interview after that because
Yeah,
that is not something you expect out of him at least to happen.
yeah,
But he still ran third that night, so
he did. He did. I mean, I don't know how that calculates to like parts that had to be
no, yeah,
replaced versus
not sure
purse
not
money,
sure how
but
bad it was.
but I was actually trying to make dirt draft picks, and I was on the fence. Like, do I like? I just watched him plow into the wall. How much faith do I have that he can get it back together? Um, but yeah, apparently he did, and he ran third. He won his heat race and everything. So that was a pretty interesting little funny tidbit. And then the JD thing on Saturday. Like, I just want to go back. It feels like he's back. It feels like
Yeah,
he's back. Speaking of Nick Hoffman, he was after the race when they interviewed him. He's basically like, yeah, I don't think anyone else could do that. He's just doing Superman type shit. And then he's like making us all look dumb. And then he was talking about how like late in the race, Overton was in third in the rubber and he decided to throw it all up there and he went straight back. Hoffman just went right past him in the rubber, and it was like it was only Davenport who could go up there. Um, so yeah, I thought a little bit of I've made comments about statement wins. We talked about Gustin burning it down and maybe being a statement win. We've talked about Alberson picking up that first W with Wu also being a statement win. So I don't know. I feel like maybe this JD thing was a statement win too. Just feels like we're going to be really deep,
ju-
really deep this year.
just reminding people that he never left.
Yeah, right. He did it. I don't know. That 2022 season, it just was exhausting, right? Like he won everything under the sun $2 million later. And so like when he didn't do that 2023, it was relief. And then 2024, we were kind of like, uh-oh. And, and it really didn't go anywhere. I mean, he finished top 4 in Lucas and was a threat to win the thing. But yeah, I don't know. He had more. I read somewhere he had more Jonathan Davenport had more second place finishes in Speedweeks this year than he had all of last season.
Yeah, that is, and it wasn't because he was winning a whole bunch last year either. That wasn't why.
Exactly. Exactly. Davenport picked up 3, technically 4, but he picked up 3 wins during Speedweeks. He had one of those goofy
that,
split features.
yeah.
Yeah. Hard to count that. It's like 3 1/3 wins or something. But he picked up 3 wins, and I think it was something like 5 second place finishes, and he only had 4 all of last year, something like that. So he's just there a lot more than he was in recent years. And so add that to RTJ, and I don't know, Bobby looked a little
I was just gonna
off the
mention he
base.
didn't win at all this week, correct? Yeah, if you would
No?
have told me he would have left with not, 'cause I don't count Votto as part of Speedweeks. He had 0 Speedweeks wins. I would have thought for sure he would have won one, even a split feature. He would have won something, but
Yeah, I would have
left
thought you
there
were
with nothing.
crazy. Yeah, I mean, the last time we were together, we were talking about how he was going to show up at Ocala, and that's like that was the piece we were missing. And then he did, and he didn't. He was kind of a non-factor. And then we
Yeah.
went to Volusia, and I think he ran up front a couple times. I think there was an incident. I think he had an incident with JD on Friday, potentially, or maybe it was Saturday, where JD kind of put him up. It was Friday. He put him up in the JD threw a slider, and Pierce went up in the fluff, and he said he kind of lost respect for JD, and JD knows better than that. And it's just kind of like, it sounded like sour grapes. To me, that's how Bobby races when he's winning,
Yeah. And I like watching Bobby, but I feel like he's one of the more known guys for a bad slider. And then, but hey, not my worry. But
Right?
yeah, I remember seeing some stuff about that on Twitter, and I just thought it was kind of funny that he was the one complaining about his slider.
Yeah, and it just like I said, it almost feels like sour grapes because you see him, you see other guys being on the other end of that, and him collecting check after check after check, and he runs a little more mid pack for a week, and all we hear is complaints about how he got a dirty slider. But I mean, it does stuck. That cushion was unforgiving there. So like when he went up, he lost wholesale ground. I think he got clipped coming back. I'd be frustrated too, but like, let's have some context. Ultimately, though, like kind of looking at Speedweeks as a whole, Alberson had three wins across 17 races. I'm just gonna count like Speedweeks and throw out which series or where for a minute. But like Alberson had 3 victories across 17 races in Speedweeks. Moran had 4. Like I mentioned before, Davenport had 3 as well. RTJ had 4 or 4 1/3 if you count a split feature win. And then Hoffman, Gustin, and Bruning also each picked up 1 win. So we've got 4 really fast guys. And I think they're all Lucas, probably, wouldn't you say? I mean, starting with
most likely. I mean, fast coming out of Speedweeks, like we know Pierce is going to be fast.
Yes.
But like
yes.
if you base it straight off of Speedweeks, then yeah, I'd say 4 Lucas guys.
Yep. And I mean, I think RTJ or not RTJ. I think Bobby will go back to being fast. Yes, I do. I think this is it's tough. He sat out a lot of races as compared to those guys too. Something to keep in mind. He didn't do much of the Lucas racing. He did woo the first go round, those 2 at Bubba, and then woo the second round, and that's it. So he did those 5, seven out of 17 races where these other guys were 17 nights they put on that in addition to practice and everything else. So I think there's some perspective there. He also raced out at Votto and won a whole mess out there. So I think he'll be just fine. But Something. So let's play a little bit of a game. I put together a list of some guys who technically have a choice. Some of them maybe not as much of a choice as it would appear, but they have a choice. And so I will throw them out to you. I'll get your opinion first, Carter, and then I can add anything if I'm different or if I've got something else to add. But I think we'll start with the guy with the biggest choice, if you will, and that's RTJ. He sits third in Lucas season points, and he sits second in Woo points. So theoretically, he can go either direction. If you were to pick which way he goes, Carter, which tour do you think he goes on?
Lucas, easily. I think the only way he ended up on Woo is if Golden Isles raced the same day as the Chili Bowl, but Golden Isles rained out. So, and with Lucas, he can be third, and say he stays there, he's still got a chance at the title. With Woo, if he's 50 points back, or probably more than that, I don't know. You know how the scoring works. If he's 200 points
Yeah.
back and in third place, he's got no chance going into the
Mm-hmm.
last race. Where the way Lucas is, it resets going into, I don't know, a few
The
weeks
last
before
four.
Eldor,
Yeah.
yeah, something like that. So,
Yeah.
and he knows the Lucas schedule. I mean, he's good anywhere, but you know what I mean. You got a notebook more at all the Lucas tracks versus some of those outlaw tracks.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. I think the only reason he declared for Woo was to hedge his bets, like you said before. He was just like, if things go really sour and I do have to miss that Lucas date, I'd rather have something. But I don't think it's a real choice either. Honestly, I would be shocked if he went Woo. I can't see it. He's too dominant on the Lucas tracks, like you said. Moving on to another one that I think is a little more interesting. Max Blair is sitting ninth in Lucas points and sitting fifth in Woo points.
See, he's one that I think will switch. I mean, he's ran both tours before, so it's not like he doesn't really know the staples of those schedules. I know he
Mm-hmm.
just, and I feel like outlaws have less competition. I mean, we said the big four are in pretty much Lucas right now, coming out of
Yeah.
Speedweeks at least. I mean, he can easily work his way up to top three in points with the Outlaws. I don't think that's going to happen with Lucas.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you too. I think the difference in where he is in points being 4 spots higher, I think it I don't want to get into the mechanisms on how these guys all score points or what it looks like, but just as a general matter, he's sitting quite a few spots higher. Also, I don't know. We called it Bobby and Friends once before. Maybe it'll look a little bit different, but like there is that going on. Also, like I think Max was pretty impressive. Honestly, he didn't win anything, but he ran in the top 5, top 10 like all of Speed Weeks. I looked into it. I think it was 12, 13-ish top 10s and a lot of those were top 5. So maybe 5 or 6. So he
Yeah,
just ran really well.
you didn't really notice he was there, and then you're just like, oh, he finished in the top 10 again. Oh, he did it again and again, like a good points racer does pretty much. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to win every
Yeah.
race to win. Not saying he's going to win the points, but you don't have to win every race to like win the points. As long as you're consistently towards the front, that's all you really need. I mean, we've seen it in the past. I think McCready one year when he won Lucas, or it might have been Jimmy Owens, one of the two. There was like they didn't win every single race, but they were like always right there. It's like, oh, all of a
Yep.
sudden there's your points winner, even though he didn't win the most races. So
Yeah, yeah, and it felt like a little bit of like a step up in his game. Like I think Max has always kind of been that guy who's sort of quietly there. Even I think we talk about it sometimes. He was in the hunt to win Woo in like 2022, I think, the year that Herb won it. It was like
yeah,
him, Herb, and Tanner English, and him and English were running for Rookie of the Year also. So like he's kind of that guy. He's just kind of always there. But this year, instead of like always being there in ninth to 13th, he was always there between like fourth and seventh. And that makes a huge difference. And so I don't know. I think he'll be cool. I agree. He's going to go Woo. And I wouldn't be shocked if he finishes somewhere second, third, maybe even for some period of time is in the thick of it. So I would agree with that. This other one, I don't know that it's as big of a choice as it would appear, but Bishop sitting 10th in Lucas points. He's sitting 7th in Woo points. Do you have a strong opinion or do you know anything about where you think Bishop might end up?
just strictly from the drive home, which Rigsby, the Dirt on Dirt guys do. They were very confident Rocket One was running Lucas. If they didn't mention that, I would have maybe said Wu, but just because they know a whole lot more than we do, that's really the only thing that's making me think he's going to stay Lucas is
Yeah.
because of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still not convinced. Although I've some of the other things we've talked about, like we feel like Ebert goes wherever Rocket One goes. That seems so that would be like a whole change of plans for them too, potentially. It just seems like there's a lot of dominoes to fall if they go that way. So, probably sticks Lucas, but I don't know. I feel like that one's a little bit in play, but
Yeah, I
I would
think that
agree with
one's
you.
more in play than the RTJ one. Like I think there's like I don't think there's a chance RTJ switches, but like I wouldn't be nearly as shocked if Shepard did happen to run Wu instead.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Dan would be running Wu too.
Get
Although I
a
don't
our
think
10th
he,
rookie.
yeah, I can't recall if he declared or not. Um, doesn't look like he did. So he'd be in hot water. So, despite being there, he'd be in a tough spot. Um, but no. And then so this another one that I find interesting, and I think this is gonna you may know a little bit about this one too, but like Dalton Wilson or Big Perm, as I like to call him, he's sitting fifth in Lucas and 16th in Woo points. But it sounds like there's some chatter he might actually go Woo. But I'll ask you your
I,
thoughts, Carter. What do you
so
think?
so I think if he left Volusia higher up in, I mean, like, like a big difference if it was like fifth and sixth, like fifth in Wu, sixth in Lucas, he may not have switched. But I think if he was like fifth in Wu, pretty much swapped, fifth in Wu and like 16th in Lucas, I think he would have easily went Wu. But I mean, I think he's so far back in Wu now. And what do you say he is in Lucas?
He's fifth.
Fifth, yeah.
Fifth.
So
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way he'd switch now. But I think if it was the opposite way around, I think he would have easily went Wu.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's actually exactly I don't know. Some of the chatter suggests maybe they were more seriously considering a Wu run, and hey, they may even still. But it would feel wild to me. He's only ever run Lucas, so he knows those tracks. He's clearly improving. He's another one of them guys I feel like is at least to start the year is a little bit better than in years past. It would be a shock unless the idea is that the field is just so soft over there
Yeah.
that
I mean,
three races isn't that big of a deal.
he's not gonna finish 16th in Wu if he did run it. He'd
Right.
probably make it probably in the top 8 or something, but I don't know, I just feel like he's so far back now.
Yeah. I mean, and it's worth probably mentioning too, like when I just quickly looked at the Woo standings, like outside of the guys we're talking about to make calls, there's not like a bunch of dudes in these Woo that's going to drop off. So like he is going to have to drive past some guys, like absolutely. But I mean, again, it's 3 out of what? It's something close to 60 races.
Yeah.
I mean, there's time. There's time. That's why I'm not giving up on Jake Tim because there's ample time, Carter. um, but I think that's probably good on the calls. There's a few other ones. Actually, I lied. Let's do one more. Tim McCready, I think, is the other one that's kind of out there. I see he's sitting 17th Lucas, 12th in Woo. Um, do you have in he obviously is a rocket car, so the rocket house car is over on Lucas as well. That's what we're guessing, and that's probably what everyone's thinking. Um, I don't know. You got a gut feeling or an opinion that he goes one way or the other?
So I thought he was for sure just gonna run Lucas all year, but then when the Dirt on Dirt guy said that one's not nearly set in stone, I don't know if that surprised me. So I guess there's a chance he could switch. I don't really know where he'd go, but when I found out that he wasn't just going to run Lucas the whole time, that kind of shocked me because he's been with Lucas for how long now? I know he used to
Yeah,
run Woo way back in the day, but
yeah, yeah. I mean, Boom ran Woo for a minute, but Boom's even been on Lucas for the last few years. I mean, it could go either way. He's sitting a little better, or and again going to that idea of, and I don't want to act like we're discounting any of the World of Outlaws guys. They're awesome. Like they're still some of the absolute best, but it's just not RTJ, Moran, Alberson,
JD.
JD, yeah, so on and so forth. So, but McCready may just view I'm a higher in points, and I think the field's a little bit softer here. Whatever comes of it, I'm probably going to just finish higher over here than I will the other spot. So, And then I got one last one for you. Tyler Earp
I was
sitting
just gonna
seventh.
say that.
Okay, you do it. You
I was
do
gonna say,
it.
does he stick on Lucas or does he go run the fun tour?
I put it down because I I think he goes fun tour. I do.
Yeah,
It sounds crazy, but I think he does.
I do too. I think he does. I mean, there's so many tracks that he's admitted he doesn't like on the Lucas schedule, especially Lucas Oil Speedway. I don't know why, but I remember him saying he hates that track.
He's not a fan.
But I think he learned last year, like he himself just has way more fun running where he wants to run. And I mean, you have more fun when you're winning too. And
Yeah.
he probably made more money hitting all those Hell Tour races. There's like the weekly checks for Hell Tour. I
Yeah.
mean, there's all that. I
And
mean,
they're
you could
running.
probably make more money doing that versus running, I don't know, 10th in Lucas points or whatever.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think there's some soft factors that go into it too. He's got a really good social media presence. He's got a really good merch game. Like his merch game's really on point. And so um I don't know if you can handle the grind being at all these different tracks. I mean, you've got basically a new audience every day on that hell tour for about a month of new people to buy merch, another $10,000 check to win. Like there's just, they race for good money on that tour, and so I could see it. And then he can still go hit up all the big fun stuff that he wants to do. And he's running so good coming off of that, like
Yeah.
going into this, that it's hard to argue that the formula works. It just seems like it's working for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's getting confidence just when you win 5 straight Hell Tour races and you show up with Lucas, it's like, okay, I can hang. Like I can win. Like I'm not on a 20 race losing streak or anything now. Like he can win. He's showing that to himself. I think
Yep.
he's easily gonna stick fun tour. And there's plenty of races you could hit in just the Midwest that are high paying. So
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's a ton. And then with Mars coming online and sort of taking over some of that MLRA footprint as well. Like if you hang out in the mid, it's just another layer of like that's a couple extra 10K shows that maybe make it worth it. And so I don't know. I agree. I think he sticks fun tour for sure. But moving on from that, I think I know that you love big block modified, so I'm going to go super in depth here real quick. Um, and I'm just going to give us a full breakdown. No, I kid. Just do want to mention it. Alex Yankowski or Kid Rocket. That's my favorite part of big blocks. They have the coolest nicknames. Like bar none, they have the best nicknames. Feel all you want to, otherwise their nicknames are on point. But Kid Rocket, Alec Yankowski won the Big Gator. He was in a kerfuffle with Shepard on night one. I think he was like jumping starts and Shepard was throwing elbows and riding him up the track on starts. So that was kind of fun. He won night two and so that's kind of the other big headline that I want to notice. So outside of Yankowski winning, I thought the racing was great. You already told me you didn't watch any of it, so no
no,
point in getting your opinion.
I don't
Um,
dislike him. I just don't have any interest in it. I don't know nobody. Don't know what to follow.
Yep, I hear that. I'm like slowly trying to teach myself. I will say this though. They sort of race like a non-wing sprint car, I'm noticing a little bit, and so that is adding a little bit more of like enjoyment to it. Just kind of when you see it, you kind of like, ah, man, what these guys are doing is really rad. So anyway, so the other takeaway that I noticed was that 4 races, 4 different winners. So I thought that was cool. That sort of showed how evenly matched they were, how good the racing was as a whole over the weekend. So I enjoyed it. Maybe I can get you to watch like one this year, and we can talk
When
about.
they're on like middle of the week, no other racing going on, like I might turn it on, like literally like nothing else going on, but that's
Yeah.
pretty much the only time I tune in. Oops.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I will say that like for me, Dirt Draft, and I know that you don't play it as much as you used to, but for me, Dirt Draft is the whole reason I even paid attention to him in the first place. Like, and so like I have a little bit of connection to them, but that's like my vouch for them. They that's also the reason I got like super into the Southern Spring Nationals or whatever it is one year. Like anything I can faux gamble on, I'm gonna like research like crazy. But anyway, enough about my mild gambling addiction in Volusia. um, I was going to cover this last week, but last week we took a small break. So I do want to just quickly kind of go over. So I put myself out there a little bit, Carter. I took a little bit of a risk. And I went to the Granite City Motor Park Banquet I wrote down the day. Saturday, February 8th. So week ago or so. And that was definitely nerve rattling a little bit. Like Banquet, I gave you a hard time about how like you weren't even there to accept the trophy on Benji's behalf, but like I get it a little bit. So one, like I know some of these guys buy facial recognition, but like it's infinitely easier when their car's nearby. Like I'm just gonna be real. So I felt a little out of place. But anyway, I got there. The Granite City staff is awesome. They like Sherry and I when we left remarked like I think the reason we like that track so much and kind of why I felt like going there a little bit is because like the very first time I went there, we left out and we just kind of felt like it was a family atmosphere. And I know everyone says that, like, and sometimes you can go and you can see and it looks like they're all family, but like at Granite City, I just kind of felt like it was actually, to be completely honest, it's a little bit like when I went to Luxie with you, right? But I went to Luxie with you and you kind of know people. So I showed up and like, they had a reason to kind of know who I was and treat me a little bit like family. Well, I got that same feeling at Granite, but like they didn't know me from Adam the first time I showed up. And so it's just that, I don't know, you'll know it when you feel it kind of thing. But I think that's a good way for me to explain it is like how I felt when I walked in with you at a place and you're a regular. That's how I felt just being a nobody at Granite City. And it was a really cool feeling. But anyway, so I went to the banquet and keeping in that theme, Sherry and I get there. We're all nervous. We walk in, we get our tickets. They're like, what's the name of the driver for the raffle? And we're like, no driver. And they give us a weird look. So already a little nervous. But we get in, we turn the corner, and I apologize. The general manager, I believe, is her title, but Tanya Eggers is right there, and she immediately greets. She notices Sherry before she sees me. Immediately greets us. You know, thanks for coming. We appreciate you. And we're like, thank you for letting us come. I wasn't sure how you'd react to my email, kind of thing. So she greeted us. That was awesome. They had a magician there by the name of, I wrote it down, David Harris. He was awesome. So like he was entertaining like as everyone was coming in during social hour, and Sherry and I went over to like observe, and he promised he wasn't going to talk to us. He said, come on closer. I promise I won't talk to you. Well, Sherry's a mark. Like Sherry's face just says gullible, so he immediately starts chatting her up. She ends up getting pulled into it, and he does this trick where he kind of convinces her that obviously she knows, but like blowing his hand and it'll appear in the other, and so she does it and it doesn't work. Well, he swipes her watch while he's doing this, and she doesn't notice, and so he does like 10 more minutes of his thing, and he like there's this whole lead up, and he's like going to trade Sherry a prize if she gets it right, and she gets it right. And he's like, you've won this watch. And he's like, does it look familiar? And Sherry's like, I think I have one like that. She looks at her wrist. She's like, I must have left mine at home. I'm like, honey, that's yours. That's your watch. So she's like, oh, it is. So we had a good laugh about that. But outside of that, like I was trying to be inconspicuous and out of the way. I checked out the trophies. I got a couple of pictures of the trophies. The one that made me giggle was Shane Sabraski's Rookie of the Year late model track trophy. I will mention just real quick too, the trophies are awesome, by the way. They were handmade. They were handmade from like, I guess, scrap metal and stuff, and it was awesome. It was chains and all kinds of different stuff, you know, half a rim and all kinds of stuff built into a trophy. So it was all just really cool. They had smoked meats there. You know I'm a sucker for smoking meats or smoked meats, so that was awesome too. So So it was just really good, fun time. And at the end, I made sure to just catch up with James Trentina and thank him for the invite. And he was also super cordial and just grateful that we were there. And I'm just like, this is just like what I feel all out of place, but all the same, I'm glad I did it. It was a fun experience. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Charlie Sheik. He races a street stock. He spotted Sherry and I trying to hide out in the back. Him and his significant other Amber, and they're like, "Is anyone sitting here?" And we're like, "Oh." Sherry and I, like, oh no, people are talking to us. What do we do? But obviously, we sit down. That was fun. So we chatted with them the whole night. They were really nice. It was kind of cool to sit there and just chat about non-racing stuff, right? Like just, I don't know. I always have to remind myself sometimes, like we watch them on the track and we're like, oh, they're awesome. But like they are just dudes and people and they have the same interests as us and everything else. So it was a good reminder. So anyway, I had fun. That's my little synopsis of it all.
You gonna go again next year? I guess
I
this
think
year.
so. I think so.
Maybe you'll win a
Yeah, I
trophy
think
this
so.
time.
Maybe. Maybe.
You're gonna have to get yourself a Hornet or a Pure Stock, whatever they got there.
Yeah. Well, they introduced Crown Vics.
There you
So,
go.
yeah, yeah. And I think they have a program in place where I could maybe get one uh, from the track for a decent price.
Oh,
But
a runner ride kind of deal.
a run ride thing, yeah, I think they're facilitating having them all be in spec, so they don't have to worry about. I don't know. Again, we've said a million times, we're not technical. I don't know enough to pretend, uh, but yeah.
I
So
I
I
ex
had a lot of fun.
I expect next year for you to break out the Crown Vic track champion trophy here. So
Uh, I'll see if I can buy it off the winner. It's my best shot. Or if I see someone's running well late into the season, maybe I can jump on as a sponsor real quick. Anyway. Oof, no. Oh, so anyway, I think with that we can transition into a little bit of like a rundown of the news and notes around the world. There wasn't a ton to go on. I do want to point out though, did you see someone made an IMCA modified appearance this past
uh
weekend?
yes, Jonathan Joyner, right?
Jonathan, yep.
He's ran
Yep.
Friday and Saturday, and I think he won Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah. I just going by from my race pass, it looks like he started fourth and led every lap. So passed 3 cars on lap one and took her home from there. So I don't know. He was one of the guys I meant to mention on One for the Road for forever as like a look, everybody's back getting into modifieds or modifieds are a place to look, and it never worked it in. So I guess it's as good as time as any that he went out to Southern and picked up a W. But I think we noticed too they're racing again next weekend at Southern or this coming weekend
Yeah,
at
this upcoming
Southern.
weekend. Pretty much the
Yep.
same thing as this last. I think it's 2,000 to win shows. It's two shows with the USCS sprint cars again. It's kind
Yep.
of like a tune-up for the Clash on the Coast. And I think this week too, we'll see more of those guys coming from the Midwest that are going to the Clash on the Coast show up at Southern Raceway because Clash on the Coast practices Sunday night, so why not come 2 days early and run for $1,000 each? I believe it's $1,000 each night. So.
I think you're right. I think you're right. But yeah, I mean, extend the trip 2 days, get a couple of races in. So that would make sense. I suspect you're right. And then to your point, Clash on the Coast practice is Sunday, kicks off Monday. Is that
Yep.
what I? Okay. Yeah.
First track is Northwest Florida, Sunday practice, Monday, Tuesday racing, and then Wednesday off day, and then at Deep South they practice Thursday, race Friday, Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll probably chat about that a little bit next week. Maybe recap kind of who's there, what happened at Southern as a lead in, that kind of thing. So probably better to just let that develop and kind of see who shows
Yeah,
up and
we don't
talk
know for
about it.
sure who's going to be there. They have an entry list a few weeks ago at this point, so it was still pretty small. I saw a few guys on Facebook said they're going. One notable, Dylan Thornton is going down there, so.
I wonder if he brings his hat. Hopefully he brings his hat.
And I think the stock car field there too will be interesting because they don't have stock cars, IMCA stock cars down there. So all the stock cars going there are travelers. So like I think
Okay.
we might honestly recognize more stock car, or at least I might recognize more stock car names over the mod names because I don't know a ton of the IMCA guys that run in Florida, but all the
Mhm.
stock car guys are be coming from Iowa, Wisconsin, Texas, I'm sure, and stuff. So
Yeah, I was gonna. If you didn't say Texas, I was gonna mention. I think Shelby's gonna be there.
yeah,
So
so
yeah,
and I
yeah.
think too, I think Southern is having a thing, like street stock versus IMCA stock car thing, um, this weekend. I don't know if it's both days or just Saturday, but so maybe we'll get an idea of
Okay.
some of the stock cars going down there on Saturday too. So
Heck yeah. At least I mean, make Southern at least an MRP watch this weekend, right? Just to get an
yeah,
idea for who's gonna be around. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, and then um, uh, unfortunately, I personally was excited. The American Racer Modified Series or ARM Series, one of the USRA regional series, was supposed to kick off this coming weekend too, at Texas Motor Speedway, but they canceled. So
the dirt track.
they'll yeah, the dirt. I don't know. We were talking about sprint car track racing recently, so I guess I didn't verify. I presume the dirt track, yes. Um, but so they'll actually be in action not this coming weekend, but the weekend after as the opener. So they'll race Thursday, and then USMTS will race Friday, Saturday at Heart of Texas. So that's that 28th and first
March
weekend. So
1st. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I think, between recapping Clash on the Coast, well, I shouldn't say recapping, but discussing Clash on the Coast and maybe I'll get nerdy and do a little bit of a primer for USMTS. Maybe I can learn you up some, and that way when we talk about it more, you'll have a background. So maybe that'll be the plan. So that's probably what next weekend looks like. But other than that, I think that wraps up most of our segments, which means Carter.
It is time for the one for the road. And I was looking all day trying to find something, and we couldn't find nothing. So I'm just gonna give two small ones. One, I mentioned it a few times. We were talking about who's running where. The drive home that Dirt on Dirt does, which unfortunately is done now that Speedweeks is done. But come next year, I recommend watching it. It's just Rigsby, Dustin Jarrett. It's pretty much just it's like watching you and your friends drive home from the races, talking about racing. That's kind of how it is with them. There's like funny stuff they're talking about. You're getting racing news. Um, Rigsby tries to get pulled over, it seems like every time. So, or Dustin, whoever ends up driving. But yeah, I recommend watching that next Speed Weeks. And I think in a few weeks we're going to talk about our schedules. And I wanted to mention one of my first races at Marshalltown, and I was working today and I got hungry, and I really wanted the corn nuggets from Marshalltown. It's like deep fried corn. So if you ever go to Marshalltown, I recommend getting those. They came in my mind today when I was working, and I just figured I'd mention that. They're very good food option at Marshalltown. Better than the gizzards, I'm assuming. I haven't had the gizzards, but
Oh, I love it. That is absolutely tangential to racing. But funny enough, I think I've heard about the corn nuggets or corn fritters, as I might call them, at Marshalltown. We were, I was chatting with Brad in the Discord, or maybe it was maybe in Twitter DMs. This is how back it was. But when we found out that what a tenderloin was at 34, Brad had mentioned those at Motown, I think, and like
yeah, there's
Sherry
a
went nuts
few
because she
tracks
can't
in
find them.
Iowa. I
Yeah,
know Boone's
we
got the tenderloin too, so if you ever go
okay,
there.
yeah, yeah. But Sherry loves like corn fritters, and we can't find good ones up here anywhere. So like we might start going to like Iowa track hunting just for corn fritters
Yeah,
or corn
Marshalltown,
nuggets.
Marshalltown, when me and Ryan went there this last October, I got some both days I was there. They were very good.
Nice. Nice. That might have to be a segment once we start actually getting to go racing. Oh man, my itches. I was looking at weather next weekend supposed to be in like almost the 50s where I'm at, and I'm just like anytime now. but
Yeah,
but
I was looking at ice races recently. I didn't end up going, but I was like, I could go to a race.
Yeah. Uh, I guess I'm technically between Granite City last weekend and then Monster Jam this coming weekend. Like I'm getting just a tiny bit of a fix, but like the itch is getting real and in a hurry. But anyway, belaboring the point, it's my turn for one for the road. So I wanted to mention, so the southernmost racetrack in the United States is Hendry County Motorsports Park, and they're holding a pretty big event for them this year, and they've held it last year at least, but probably a few years. Admittedly, I'm not super researched. Nonetheless, their big event is coming up this weekend, and it is called the Swamp Cabbage 100, and it's a pretty beefy purse. They're running for 22,000 to win for factory stocks.
Yeah, like
22,000 to
that.
win. Yeah, I
Uh,
figured that was right up your alley. 15,000 to win Cruza late models, 10,000 to win Cruza street stocks, and then they also have 5K to win. They're calling it 4.6 Fords. I don't know if that's a Crown Vic
is that
class.
what,
I
yeah,
have no
I think
idea.
my guess is a Crown Vic, but I'm
Yeah,
not really sure.
but so that is just a ton of money for all of these classes. And I looked last year and they got 48 factory stocks, which is solid, but they had 13 late models, and I think they had a pretty big purse up last year too. So I'm just mentioning it. I have no influence, and I'm so late in the game. I'm going to change nothing, but I'm just really hoping that people go out and support this. This is someone taking a swing, right? Like this, I looked at it. It's in Clewiston, Florida. It's like pretty
It's
southern
way down
Florida.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's a ton of money to put up. I saw on Facebook, I think they like rented 6 or some odd acres for overflow pit parking. Like they're really putting a foot forward. So I'm gonna keep an eye on it. I hope the entries are big. I hope, I think if you want to watch it or support it, it's on Done Right TV. Um, yeah, I just hope it goes awesome, and I'm gonna check in on it this weekend. So I figured I'd mention it because I think that's neat. So
Yeah, I love me some any stock kind of class. So street
yeah,
stocks, factory stocks. I love
yeah,
that. So
yeah. There's not a lot to watch on Saturday, so I don't know if anyone wants to throw Carter a Done Right TV subscription. I'm pretty sure he's gonna be down to watch 22K win factory
yeah,
stuff.
there's pretty much nothing to watch. So I think there's
Yeah,
one race on Flow or something that at least dirt racing. So
yeah, yeah. But anyway, well, I think that wraps up this episode. It was definitely fun. Again, thank everyone for watching. We appreciate it. If you made it this far, you're a real one. Please share this with someone. That's like your reward. You get to tell someone else you put in the time. So we appreciate you, and we'll catch you again next week.
see ya.